The ocean floor is a museum of lost worlds. Beneath the familiar blue surface lie the silent ruins of entire cities, monuments swallowed by the sea that defy our most basic understanding of history. In this journey, we will explore 25 underwater ruins that science cannot fully explain. You will see how a single discovery can shatter timelines and rewrite the story of human civilization. How did a massive pyramid form off the coast of Japan? And what forgotten metropolis lies under 2,000 feet of water near Cuba? These are not just sunken stones, they are unanswered questions from our past. What does it say about us that our greatest achievements often end up beneath the waves? The debate begins with a single, breathtaking formation in the clear waters off Japan. Rising from the seafloor near Yonaguni Island is a structure so geometrically perfect it looks deliberately built. Its terraced levels, sharp 90-degree corners, and what seem to be wide, flat platforms and staircases ascend like a sunken ziggurat. When a local diver first documented this in the 1980s, the images sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Here was something that simply did not fit. Was this a natural rock formation sculpted over millennia by the relentless ocean currents, or was it the work of human hands from a time before recorded history? Geologists who study the area point to the region's unique sandstone bedrock, which naturally fractures into clean, flat plains. They argue the powerful tides could have carved these seemingly perfect steps and terraces over countless centuries, a masterpiece of random erosion. Yet other researchers, like marine geologist Masaki Kimura, have spent decades surveying the site. They point to features that seem to defy natural explanation. There is a formation that strikingly resembles a giant turtle, another that looks like a carved stage or altar, and what appear to be perfectly circular holes that could have held pillars. The most compelling argument for human involvement lies not in one feature, but in the collective arrangement. The sheer scale and the repetition of right angles and parallel lines suggest an intelligence behind the design. If this is indeed a constructed monument, its origins are profoundly mysterious. Conventional history tells us the people of this region thousands of years ago were hunter-gatherers, not monumental architects capable of such underwater engineering. This has led some to propose a radical idea that Yonaguni could be a remnant of a legendary lost Pacific civilization, a place like Mu or Lemuria. The monument sits at a depth that would have been above water during the last ice age when sea levels were much lower. Could an advanced culture have thrived here only to have its achievements swallowed by the rising seas? The Yonaguni Monument presents us with a fundamental choice. Do we see a fascinating quirk of geology or the first clue to a forgotten chapter of human history? It is a riddle written in stone, lying in wait for the tide to turn and for our understanding to catch up. But what happens when myth gives you a map? Far from the solitary monument of Yonaguni, off the western coast of India, lies a discovery that directly challenges the line between ancient story and historical record. According to sacred Hindu texts like the Mahabharata, the magnificent city of Dwarka was the celestial kingdom of Lord Krishna, a place of immense splendor and power. The epic tells a dramatic conclusion that after Krishna's earthly departure, the entire city was consumed by the sea, vanishing in a single event. For centuries, this was considered a beautiful allegory, a symbolic end to a divine era. Then marine archaeologists began to look. What they found has rewritten the conversation. Scattered across the seabed near modern Dwarka in Gujarat are the undeniable remains of a lost city. Not just a few stones, but a sprawling complex of massive stone blocks, some weighing several tons, arranged in geometric patterns that clearly outline walls, fortifications, and foundations. They have recovered ancient stone anchors, the kind used by large seafaring vessels, and layers upon layers of pottery shards, all pointing to a bustling, sophisticated port that thrived on trade. Scientific analysis places these artifacts at several thousand years old, aligning remarkably with the traditional time frame of the legends. This convergence is what makes Dwarka so compelling. It is not a question of finding a city that matches a myth in every detail, but of finding a real, advanced urban center exactly where and when the ancient stories said a great city was lost to the ocean. The debate now focuses on interpretation. Are these the literal ruins of Krishna's Dwarka, or the remains of a powerful historical port city whose memory was later woven into the grand tapestry of myth? The precise dating of the submerged structures and their potential connection to specific events in the epics remain a topic of scholarly discussion. Yet the fundamental implication is profound. Dwarka stands as powerful evidence that our oldest stories are not mere fiction. They can be containers of cultural memory, preserving the echo of real places and real cataclysms across millennia. Here, the ocean does not hide a mystery of construction, but a mystery of memory. It asks us to listen more carefully to the old tales, for they might just be telling us where to look. While a legend can point the way, a straight line demands an explanation. In the shallow, sun-drenched waters off North Bimini in the Bahamas, the seafloor presents a sight that seems impossibly orderly. Stretching for nearly half a mile is what looks like a paved road or perhaps a massive, collapsed wall. This is the Bimini Road, a formation of hundreds of large, rectangular limestone blocks, each several feet across, resting on the seabed in a remarkably straight line. Their edges appear squared, their surfaces flat, and their alignment is so precise it feels intentional. It was discovered in 1968, and from the moment the first photographs surfaced, one word echoed around it: Atlantis. The famous psychic Edgar Cayce had once predicted that a portion of the lost continent would rise near Bimini in that very decade, and here, seemingly on cue, was a man-made looking structure. The connection was irresistible for many, suggesting this could be a fragment of a drowned civilization's infrastructure, a causeway or a foundation swallowed by the sea. Science, however, offers a different, more mundane story. Geologists who have studied the site classify the material as beak rock, a type of sandstone that forms naturally along coastlines. Over time, layers of shell, sand, and sediment can cement together into solid slabs. As the sea level changes or erosion occurs, these slabs can fracture along natural planes, often creating surprisingly geometric shapes. The prevailing scientific view is that the Bimini Road is a spectacular example of this exact process, a beautiful accident of nature. Yet the mystery persists because not all the details fit neatly into that box. Investigators have noted that some blocks appear to be stacked, not just lying flat. The uniformity of their size and the consistency of the straight path feel deliberate to many observers. Even more intriguing are the additional formations found nearby, including what some describe as anchor stones and circular patterns, suggesting a potential complex rather than a single linear feature. This pushes against the established narrative of pre-Columbian activity in the region, which traditionally did not include monumental stonework of this scale. So we are left with a classic standoff between two ways of seeing. Is this a stunning geological formation that perfectly mimics human construction, playing a trick on our pattern-seeking minds? Or is it the eroded remnant of something built, a silent piece of evidence that a culture with engineering knowledge was present in these waters long before recorded history claims? The Bimini Road does not offer a clear answer. Instead, it lays down a challenge, a straight line in the sand, or rather in the sea, asking us to decide what we are really looking at. The straight line of Bimini leads us into a much deeper and darker mystery. off the western coast of Cuba, the ocean floor plunges to abyssal depths, a realm of perpetual night where sunlight never reaches. In 2001, a team of oceanographers mapping the seabed with advanced sonar made a discovery that should not have been possible. Their screens displayed something astonishing: massive, geometric shapes rising from the mud at a depth of over 2,000 feet. The sonar images revealed what appeared to be a vast complex of structures, including several with the distinct, symmetrical slopes of pyramids, alongside long, straight lines that hinted at wide avenues and large, rectangular foundations. The scale was staggering, suggesting not a single building but the layout of an entire sunken city. The implications are what truly defy understanding. At that immense depth, these formations would have last been dry land over 10,000 years ago, during the peak of the last ice age when global sea levels were hundreds of feet lower. For this to be a natural geological formation, it would require a series of impossibly perfect coincidences, creating sharp, 90-degree angles and pyramidal mounds across a wide urban-like grid purely by chance. The depth itself is the greatest puzzle, placing any potential builders in a time frame that conventional archaeology does not recognize for complex city-building civilizations in the Americas. This has led researchers like marine geologist Manuel Iturralde to a profound, if cautious, hypothesis. He stated that the complex patterns and repetition of shapes are very unusual, and that while a natural explanation is preferred, we don't have such an explanation today. The structures invite us to consider a civilization advanced enough for urban planning and monumental architecture, thriving at a time when much of humanity lived in small, nomadic groups, only to be completely erased by the rising post-Ice Age seas. Yet here the mystery hits a wall not of stone but of practicality. Exploring a site 2,000 feet down is a monumental technical and financial challenge, far beyond the scope of most archaeological expeditions. It requires deep-sea submersibles, immense funding, and coordination with governments and research institutions. Since that initial sonar scan, follow-up investigations have been sparse and inconclusive. The ruins, if that is what they are, remain in the dark, waiting. The sunken pyramids of Cuba represent the ultimate cliffhanger in underwater archaeology. They are a signature at the bottom of a page, but the page itself is missing. They push us to the very edge of our historical timeline and ask the most difficult question of all: how much of human history is still lying beneath the waves, waiting for our technology and our courage to catch up to our curiosity? Deep in the murky darkness of the Baltic Sea lies an object that refuses to be categorized. Discovered in 2011 by a Swedish ocean exploration team, the Baltic Sea Anomaly is a perfect example of how a single sonar image can ignite global speculation. The scans revealed a large, circular formation resting on the seabed, roughly 200 feet in diameter, but it was the details that captured the imagination. The object appeared to have unnaturally straight edges and sharp, 90-degree angles. Protruding from its top was a smaller, distinct structure that many observers immediately likened to a staircase or a command tower. Even stranger, a long, linear track or trench extended behind it for over 1,000 feet, as if it had skidded to a halt. The immediate, and perhaps inevitable, public reaction was to see a crashed, unidentified flying object, a relic from another world resting silently in the cold, dark water. The seemingly artificial design and the dramatic trail fueled countless theories of extraterrestrial visitation. Science, however, leans toward a more terrestrial, if still unusual, explanation. Most geologists who have examined the data suggest the anomaly is likely a glacial deposit. During the last ice age, massive glaciers scraped across the bedrock, and as they retreated, they could have left behind large, isolated mounds of rock and debris. The straight lines and angles might be explained by natural fracturing in the granite bedrock, a phenomenon known as glacial rafting where a moving ice sheet picks up and later deposits a large, intact block of stone. Subsequent dives to the site have reported that the object is made of basalt rock, a common volcanic material, and noted the presence of what looks like a rock formation, not metal. Yet the mystery endures because the explanations do not feel entirely satisfactory to everyone. The sheer symmetry and the collection of seemingly architectural features in one place feel, to many investigators and enthusiasts, too coincidental. The remote location and the challenging conditions with near-zero visibility and strong currents have made a thorough, hands-on examination extremely difficult. Expensive expeditions have gathered more data, but a definitive conclusion remains elusive. This is the true power of the Baltic Sea Anomaly. It is a Rorschach test on the ocean floor. Some see a geological oddity, a trick of sonar and stone. Others see potential proof of a non-human intelligence or a lost chapter of human technology. Its greatest lesson is not about aliens or ancient builders, but about the vast unknown that still covers our planet. It reminds us that we have better maps of the surface of Mars than of our own seafloors. In that profound darkness, our instruments can capture shapes, but it is up to us, with all our hopes and biases, to decide what those shapes truly mean. While the Baltic Sea holds its enigmatic shape, the Mediterranean offers a sunken city of breathtaking clarity. Near the coast of Egypt, where the Nile once met the sea, lies the lost port of Thonis-Heracleion. For over 1,000 years, this city was not a myth but a documented powerhouse, a bustling gateway where Egyptian goods flowed to the Greek world, and where pilgrims came to worship at the Grand Temple of Ammon. Then, sometime around the 2nd century before the Common Era, it simply vanished. The land gave way, and the entire metropolis, with its temples, statues, and harbors, slid beneath the waves swallowed by the Mediterranean mud. It remained a whispered legend until the year 2000, when underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team, following clues from ancient texts, found a colossal stone face emerging from the seabed. They had discovered Heracleion perfectly preserved in a deep layer of clay and sand. The scale of the find is almost overwhelming. Divers have brought to light 16-foot-tall statues of a pharaoh and a queen, carved from red granite with a serene power that defies the centuries. They have found towering stone slabs covered in perfectly carved hieroglyphs and Greek script, the Rosetta Stones of the deep, decreeing taxes and laws. There are delicate gold coins, bronze ceremonial barges, and the immense remains of the temple complex itself, with stone columns lying where they fell. The city's sinking is attributed to a natural process called soil liquefaction, where the soft, waterlogged ground beneath the city's heavy stone buildings essentially turned to liquid during an earthquake, causing everything to collapse and be rapidly engulfed by the sea. Yet the sheer suddenness captured in the ruins is haunting. Artifacts were found as if life simply stopped, offering a frozen moment of a thriving city's final day. This raises a profound and urgent question about our own world. Heracleion was not a remote outpost, it was a major religious and commercial capital, built on what seemed like stable ground. Its catastrophic fate forces us to consider the fragility of all coastal civilizations, ancient and modern, in the face of geological change and rising waters. The city's true mystery is not if it existed, but in the sobering lesson it provides. It shows us how even the greatest centers of culture and commerce are not permanent, and that the sea which gives life to a port city can also, with a shift of the earth, become its final resting place. Heracleion's story is a tangible, beautiful, and solemn reminder written in stone and sediment, a message from the past about the precarious foundations upon which we build our own world. The silent city of Heracleion shows us a civilization lost to the sea, but what about a civilization that deliberately placed its most sacred treasures within the water? High in the thin air of the Andes Mountains, straddling the border of Bolivia and Peru, lies Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable lake in the world. Its deep blue waters, set against a stark landscape, have been considered sacred for millennia. And beneath its surface, archaeologists are finding that this was not just a symbolic reverence, but a physical one. The lake bed is scattered with the ruins of a submerged world, one that belonged to the Great Tiwanaku state and later the Inca Empire. Through careful underwater surveys, researchers have mapped extensive stone structures, including what appears to be a long, submerged wall that likely formed part of an ancient temple complex. They have also recovered ritual offerings, delicate pottery, and even small figures made of gold, carefully placed into the water centuries ago. These are not the remains of a sudden catastrophe, but of intentional acts. The discoveries tell a clear story. The lake's water level was significantly lower in the past, allowing these temples and terraces to be built on its shores. Over time, geological shifts or climatic changes caused the waters to rise, slowly claiming the sacred architecture. This gradual inundation transforms the site from a tragic loss into a profound act of preservation. The cold, fresh water of the high-altitude lake protected these artifacts and structures in a state of remarkable stillness, sealing them in a time capsule. The enduring mystery here is not how the structures sank, but why they were built in such a vulnerable, spiritually charged location in the first place. For the Tiwanaku and Inca, Lake Titicaca was seen as a place of origin, the birthplace of the sun, and the foundational site from which the world was created. Building temples that reached into, or were eventually claimed by, the lake's waters would have been the ultimate act of connection to these divine beginnings. The ruins are not merely archaeological sites, they are part of a living sacred geography. This high-altitude mystery challenges our modern separation of the practical and the spiritual. It reveals a culture that wove its beliefs directly into the landscape, even when that landscape was water, and trusted that the depths would hold their offerings safe for eternity. The lake did not steal their history, it was chosen as its guardian. The sacred waters of Lake Titicaca hold their secrets by choice, but in the vast Pacific, another civilization built its sanctuary directly against the will of the sea. On the remote island of Pohnpei, a city of stone rises from a coral reef, a place so improbable it seems conjured from a dream. This is Madol, often called the Venice of the Pacific, a labyrinth of over 90 artificial islets built atop a submerged coral platform and connected by a network of narrow canals. Its towering walls are constructed from colossal basalt logs, each a hexagonal or octagonal column weighing up to 50 tons, stacked like firewood to form immense enclosures. The first and most enduring mystery is the simplest: how did they do it? The basalt quarries are on the other side of the island, meaning these multi-ton stones were somehow transported across open water and dense mangrove forests to this remote reef. The builders had no metal tools, no pulleys, and no draft animals. Local legend provides a magical explanation, speaking of two brother sorcerers who used a great flying dragon to levitate the columns into place. For archaeologists, the reality is a puzzle of logistics and social organization that defies easy answers. They theorize about rafts, rollers, and an immense communal effort spanning generations, but the precise engineering methods remain lost. The purpose of Madol is equally elusive. It appears to have been a ceremonial and political capital for the Sordalor dynasty, with specific islets serving as temples, tombs, and administrative centers. The architecture creates a stark separation between the sacred spaces of the elite and the world beyond, a stone manifestation of power built literally upon the water. Today, the ocean is completing a slow reclamation. Subsidence and rising sea levels have left many of the lower structures permanently flooded, while high tides now swirl through the canals with increasing force. Mangrove roots pry apart the ancient masonry, and tidal patterns constantly shift the silt, obscuring the full layout of the complex. This encroaching water adds a profound, melancholy layer to the mystery. Madol stands as a breathtaking testament to a sophisticated island culture that mastered its environment to build a city where none should exist. Yet its very foundation is now giving way, ensuring that even as we study it, some of its final secrets may slip beneath the waves before we can fully understand them. It is a monument to human ambition in a perpetual, and now losing, dialogue with the sea. The immense effort of Madol shows humanity's drive to build upon the water, but what if the water is hiding something far older? In the murky, sediment-choked waters of India's Gulf of Khambhat, a discovery emerged that aimed to push the origins of civilization back by thousands of years. During a routine pollution survey in 2001, oceanographers noticed something strange on their sonar scans. The images suggested the presence of large, geometric formations on the seabed, patterns that looked like the foundations of buildings, arranged in a grid-like layout across a vast area. Subsequent dredging of the site brought up materials that sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Teams reported recovering not just stone artifacts and weathered pottery, but also samples of wood and what were described as human remains. The most explosive claim came from carbon dating of some of these wood samples, which suggested an age of over 9,000 years. If true, this would mean a sophisticated, city-building culture existed in northwestern India millennia before the great Indus Valley civilization of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, which flourished around 4,500 years ago. The implications are staggering, suggesting a lost chapter of human history, a precursor civilization that thrived when this gulf was dry land during the last ice age, only to be submerged by the rising seas. This potential city, nicknamed the Gulf of Cambay Discovery, promised to rewrite the textbooks. Yet, from the moment of its announcement, it was met with intense skepticism and a fierce academic debate that continues to this day. Critics point to the extremely challenging conditions of the site. The waters here are notoriously turbid, with near-zero visibility and powerful currents that constantly shift the seabed. They argue that the sonar images, while intriguing, could be misinterpretations of natural geological ridges and sand formations. The artifacts themselves became a central point of contention. Skeptical archaeologists noted that the dredging process, which scoops material from the bottom, can severely disturb the layers of sediment, mixing objects from different time periods. A piece of wood dated to 9,000 years ago could have been washed into the area from elsewhere, not originating from a structure at that depth. The reported human remains have also been questioned, with some experts suggesting they could be much more recent materials that settled into older layers. This controversy is not just about one site. It highlights the immense difficulty of underwater archaeology, especially in such hostile environments. Proving a city exists is not just about finding interesting shapes or old objects. It is about demonstrating clear, in situ evidence, like intact walls, floors, and artifacts found exactly where they were left, all securely dated. For the Gulf of Khambhat, that definitive proof has remained elusive, buried under centuries of silt and swirling debate. The site stands as a powerful cautionary tale and a tantalizing possibility. It represents the thrilling potential of what might lie hidden, but also the rigorous scrutiny required when a discovery threatens to overturn everything we think we know. It is a reminder that the most revolutionary claims demand the most extraordinary evidence, and that sometimes the murkiest waters are those of academic disagreement. The controversy of the Gulf of Khambhat forces us to separate speculation from evidence, but sometimes the most profound evidence reveals not cities, but an entire lost world. Stretching beneath the cold, grey waters of the North Sea is Doggerland, a haunting ghost landscape. This was not a city of stone, but a vast, fertile plain of forests, rolling hills, and winding rivers that for thousands of years connected the island of Britain to mainland Europe. During the last ice age, when so much of the world's water was locked in glaciers, this entire region stood dry and teeming with life. It was home to Mesolithic hunter-gatherers who followed herds of mammoth and deer through its woodlands and fished in its abundant rivers. Today, that world is gone, submerged under hundreds of feet of water. What remains are echoes trawled up by fishermen's nets, stone tools, fragments of antler, and most evocatively, chunks of ancient peat containing the preserved roots of trees. This sunken forest is a different kind of ruin, one of ecology and human passage rather than architecture. Its story is one of dramatic and relentless change. As the Ice Age ended and glaciers melted, sea levels began their inexorable rise. Doggerland slowly shrank, its inhabitants forced to retreat to ever higher ground. Then, around 6,500 BC, geological evidence suggests a catastrophic finale. A massive underwater landslide off the coast of Norway, known as the Storegga Slide, likely triggered a devastating tsunami that swept across the remaining low-lying plains. This event would have been a cataclysm for the people living there, a rapid and violent end to a way of life that had endured for millennia. The water rushed in and never left, sealing the landscape in mud and memory. Studying Doggerland is like reading a history book with most of its pages missing. Each recovered tool or peat sample is a single, tantalizing word. They tell us people were here, they adapted, they thrived, and then they were overcome by forces far beyond their control. This submerged realm forces us to think on a grand scale about human resilience and vulnerability. It encapsulates a prehistoric climate change event of staggering speed and impact, a real-world lesson in how quickly a stable environment can vanish. The full scope of its settlements, its campsites and sacred places, remains almost entirely hidden, a vast archaeological site spread across the seabed of one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Doggerland's mystery is not about who built it, but about who walked it. It asks us to envision a map without a sea, and a chapter of human history written on land that now exists only in the silent, dark water beneath the waves. Doggerland's vast, sunken plains give way to a more intimate, yet equally haunting, underwater world. Off the southern coast of Greece, in the clear, shallow waters near the Peloponnese, lies a city that time forgot, but the sea remembers with perfect clarity. This is Pavlopetri, a name that now belongs to one of the oldest submerged cities ever discovered, its foundations dating back over 5,000 years. While other ruins are fragments or mysteries, Pavlopetri is astonishingly complete. From above, the layout is unmistakable, a ghostly blueprint etched onto the seabed. You can trace the main street winding between the stone foundations of houses. You can make out the outlines of individual rooms, central courtyards where families gathered, and even the distinct shapes of tombs integrated into the town itself. This is not a collection of scattered blocks, it is an entire early Bronze Age community, frozen in a moment of profound transition. The city's demise is attributed to the same seismic forces that shape much of Greece, a series of earthquakes that caused the land to sink, gradually allowing the sea to claim the streets and squares over centuries. This slow submergence, rather than a sudden cataclysm, is precisely what makes Pavlopetri so invaluable to archaeology. The sediment and stable seawater have acted as a remarkable preservative. Researchers have mapped and studied not just the stone foundations, but the fragile, organic remains of daily life. Intact pottery, cooking utensils, and tools have been found exactly where they were last used, offering a direct line into the hands of the people who lived here. The presence of burial sites within the town provides a deeply personal connection to their beliefs and practices surrounding those who passed. This level of preservation turns Pavlopetri from a ruin into a three-dimensional time capsule. The central mystery here is not how it sank, but why it was ultimately abandoned and never rebuilt. This was a thriving port settlement with evidence of long-distance trade, a sophisticated society with a clear sense of urban order. Yet after the earthquakes and encroaching waters, the people left and did not return. Did changing trade routes make the location less viable? Did a social collapse or conflict force a migration? Or did the relentless advance of the sea simply become a force they could no longer contest? Each artifact, each carefully mapped room, is a clue in this quiet investigation. Pavlopetri stands as a cornerstone of underwater archaeology because it provides the rare, complete picture. It allows us to walk, in a sense, through the streets of a 5,000-year-old city, to understand not just its monuments, but its homes, its industry, and the rhythm of its daily existence. It is a powerful reminder that history is not only about kings and conquests, but about the quiet moments in courtyards and the decision, one day, to gather what you could carry and move on, leaving your entire world to the gentle, patient custody of the sea. The quiet streets of Pavlopetri give way to a different kind of underwater monument, one built not for living but for a purpose lost to time. In the cool, fresh waters of the Sea of Galilee, a place steeped in ancient history, sonar has revealed a shape that does not belong. Resting on the lake bed is a colossal, conical pile of basalt stones, a perfect artificial hill that rises nearly 30 feet high and stretches over 200 feet across. The scale is almost incomprehensible. This is not a collection of rubble, but a deliberate, monumental construction weighing an estimated 60,000 tons, a weight comparable to 2 modern aircraft carriers. Each of its countless dark, volcanic stones was gathered and placed by human hands, requiring a coordinated communal effort that would have spanned years, if not generations. Yet for all its undeniable presence, the structure is a profound enigma. It offers no inscriptions, no artifacts nestled within its stones, and no clear architectural features like walls or chambers. It is simply a giant, silent cairn sitting on the muddy bottom of a lake. This absence of clues has opened a floodgate of theories. Some archaeologists propose it was a Neolithic ceremonial site, a sacred mound for rituals performed when the lake's water level was much lower. Others suggest a more practical function, like an ancient fish nursery, where the structure's nooks and crannies created an ideal habitat for breeding. There is even speculation it could be a monumental burial marker, though no evidence of this has been found. The greatest puzzle, however, is not just its purpose but its isolation. Such an immense project implies a large, organized, and settled society capable of mobilizing a significant workforce. But surveys of the surrounding hills have not uncovered any nearby settlement from the same era that matches the scale of this endeavor. Who were these builders, and why did they invest such staggering labor into a project in the middle of a lake, only to have it abandoned to the rising waters? The freshwater environment adds another layer of intrigue. Unlike saltwater sites where wood and organic material are often devoured by shipworms, the lake's fresh water can preserve different kinds of evidence, potentially holding secrets within the sediment that surrounds the mound. This structure defies the typical narratives of ancient construction. It is not a city, a temple, or a fortress. It is a single, overwhelming statement in stone, a question mark carved in basalt resting in the deep. It forces us to consider that ancient peoples may have had motivations and communal projects we have not yet begun to understand. Monumental works whose meaning was so tied to the landscape that when the water rose, it took the reason for its existence with it. While the Sea of Galilee holds a monumental question in stone, there is a place where the water itself is the answer to a deliberate choice. Deep within the man-made expanse of Qingdao Lake in China lies a city that was not lost but purposefully submerged. This is Cheng, the Lion City, a marvel of imperial Chinese architecture dating back to the Han and Tang dynasties. In 1959, the valley was flooded to create a new reservoir and hydroelectric power station, and the ancient city was left in place, slowly disappearing beneath the rising waters. Unlike ruins claimed by earthquakes or rising seas, Cheng was preserved with an almost surgical precision by its freshwater tomb. The result is nothing short of breathtaking. Divers descending into the lake's clear, cool depths are met with a vision frozen in time. Ornate stone arches and monumental city gates stand intact, their silhouettes stark against the blue-green haze. Intricately carved dragons, phoenixes, and lions adorn the wooden beams and stone pillars of forgotten temples and aristocratic homes, their details sharp and untouched by centuries of weathering. Wide staircases beckon toward vanished courtyards, and entire streetscapes remain perfectly legible on the lakebed. It is a complete, functioning city from the Ming and Qing dynasties, perfectly preserved in a state of graceful suspension. This creates a unique and profound duality. On one hand, Cheng is an unparalleled underwater museum, a time capsule offering scholars a pristine view of imperial urban planning, art, and daily life that land-based sites, eroded and rebuilt over time, can rarely match. Each dive is a journey directly into the past with no layers of modern construction to peel away. Yet, this incredible preservation came at a deliberate cost. The flooding was an act of modern progress, a decision to sacrifice a tangible piece of ancient history for the contemporary needs of power, water, and economic development for a growing population. The city's residents were relocated, their homes and histories surrendered to the lake. This forces us to confront a difficult and recurring question in our relationship with the past. How do we balance the urgent demands of the present against the irreplaceable legacy of what came before? Cheng stands as a poignant, beautiful, and melancholic monument to that very trade-off. It is a testament to what we can save, even as we choose to lose it. It whispers that for every technological leap forward, there may be a silent city left behind, waiting in the deep for us to remember what we traded to get here. The deliberate preservation of Cheng shows what we choose to keep, but sometimes the lake itself chooses what to reveal. Far from China, in the cold, fresh depths of Lake Michigan, a sonar scan captured an image that sent a ripple through the world of archaeology. Resting on the lake bed was a curious arrangement of large stones, a pattern that seemed anything but random. The formation resembled a kind of underwater cairn or a primitive henge, a circle of boulders with one particularly large stone at its center. But it was a detail on one of these rocks that ignited the real firestorm of speculation. On that central stone, the sonar seemed to show a distinct, deliberate carving, the outline of a massive creature with tusks, a creature that has not walked this earth for thousands of years, a mastodon. The implications of such a discovery are staggering. If authentic, this carving would be a direct artistic signature from a human hand that lived alongside these Ice Age giants. It would place people in the heart of North America, not just as hunters following herds, but as artists marking their world, at a time far earlier than many conventional models of human migration into the Americas suggest. This single, submerged stone could be a keystone, threatening to collapse the established timeline of how and when the first people arrived on this continent. Yet, as with so many underwater finds, certainty dissolves into the murky water. The site sits in deep, dark conditions where visibility is near zero, and the pressure of the depth makes detailed archaeological examination a monumental challenge. Verifying a carving on a rock, distinguishing it from the random scratches of glacial movement or natural erosion, requires hands-on investigation, high-resolution photography, and delicate analysis, all of which are exceedingly difficult and expensive to conduct in that environment. The scientific community remains rightly cautious, caught between the thrilling possibility and the rigorous demand for incontrovertible proof. This has left the Lake Michigan Formation in a state of profound limbo, a tantalizing maybe. It is a ghost image on a sonar screen, a story waiting to be confirmed or dismissed. Whether it is a genuine prehistoric site or a remarkable geological coincidence, its power lies in the questions it forces us to ask. What does it mean for our understanding of the earliest Americans if they were creating monumental art on the shores of ancient lakes? How many other such markers might lie hidden beneath the vast waters of the Great Lakes, a region that was dry land and thriving tundra during the last ice age? This potential cairn is more than a pile of stones, it is a challenge. It invites us to look deeper, to question our maps of human history, and to consider that the first chapters of the American story might not be written on dry land at all, but are waiting patiently in the silent dark below. The silent stones of a potential cairn in Lake Michigan speak of a deep, uncertain past, but off the coast of modern Israel, the sea holds a village frozen at a precise moment of crisis. Atlit Yam is not a city of grand monuments, but a hauntingly intimate snapshot of Neolithic life, submerged intact beneath the Mediterranean waves, dating back over 9,000 years to around 7,000 BC. This settlement is a time capsule from a pivotal era when humanity was transitioning from nomadic hunting to settled farming. The site's preservation is extraordinary. Archaeologists have mapped the very foundations of stone houses, ancient wells that once tapped freshwater now mingled with the sea, and carefully arranged installations of massive stones that form mysterious ritual circles. Here the past is not in fragments but in full, poignant detail. Among the most significant finds were the resting places of the villagers themselves. Analysis of these remains revealed something startling, evidence of some of the earliest known cases of tuberculosis in human history. This discovery paints a new picture of the challenges of early communal life, where close quarters and domesticated animals created new vulnerabilities to illness. The presence of this disease so long ago reshapes our understanding of how health challenges emerged alongside human innovation. Yet the ultimate fate of Atlit Yam was written not by illness alone, but by the very climate of the planet. The village was abandoned as sea levels rose inexorably due to the melting glaciers of the last ice age, a slow-motion environmental change that eventually made the location unsustainable. This provides one of archaeology's most direct and sobering case studies, a clear link between ancient climate change and the dissolution of a community. The villagers likely saw their freshwater sources become brackish, their fishing grounds altered, and their fields threatened by encroaching saltwater, until the decision to leave became inevitable. The site's most captivating mystery may be its large stone circle, a megalithic structure that predates Stonehenge by thousands of years. Its precise alignment and purpose remain subjects of study, hinting at complex spiritual or astronomical practices for a people grappling with a changing world. Atlit Yam offers no grand tales of kings or conquests. Instead, it tells a quieter, more universal story of adaptation and resilience in the face of a transforming environment. It is a narrative of a community that built, worshipped, cared for its ill, and ultimately made the difficult choice to gather what they could and move to higher ground, leaving their homes to the patient, rising sea. The intimate struggles of a Neolithic village give way to a legend of divine punishment written in stone. For centuries, along the coast of Mahabalipuram in southern India, fishermen told stories of the 7 pagodas. They spoke of 6 magnificent temples, built with such pride that they angered the gods, who sent a great flood to swallow them whole, leaving only the single, shore-side temple complex we see today as a warning. It was a powerful myth, a tale of hubris and consequence passed down through generations. Then, in 2004, the Indian Ocean tsunami struck with devastating force. As the colossal wave receded, pulling water away from the shoreline in its terrible retreat, locals and authorities reported a breathtaking sight: For a few brief moments, the sea had pulled back to reveal the outlines of stone structures, man-made walls and sculptures lying on the exposed seabed. The ocean had lifted its veil, and the legend of the 6 lost pagodas suddenly held the weight of reality. This event prompted formal underwater archaeological surveys, which have since confirmed a stunning truth. Scattered across the ocean floor are the scattered remains of a grand complex. Divers have documented large, elaborately carved stone blocks, sections of fallen walls that once formed enclosures, and the distinct remnants of sculpted pillars. These are not random shipwrecks or natural formations, but the architectural fingerprints of the Pallava dynasty, which ruled the region between the 6th and 9th centuries and was renowned for its monumental stone carving, evident in Mahabalipuram's magnificent shore temples. The discoveries create a profound dialogue between story and science. The legend of divine wrath finds a possible origin in a very real, catastrophic geological event, perhaps an ancient tsunami or a series of powerful storms that eroded the coastline and submerged the temples over time. The myth preserved the memory of the loss, while modern technology is now recovering its physical proof. This site embodies how natural disasters hold a dual role in history. They are agents of both concealment and revelation. The same forces of water and earth that buried these temples for a millennium also, in a tragic irony, provided the key to their rediscovery. Ongoing exploration now focuses on mapping the full, sprawling extent of this submerged marvel. Each new scan asks a quiet, persistent question of the surf. How much of this sacred complex remains hidden beneath the sand and silt? The sunken temples of Mahabalipuram teach us that our oldest stories are often not mere fantasies, but encrypted records of real events, waiting for the right moment or the right wave to give up their secrets. The sudden violence of a tsunami can reveal lost temples, but it can also seal a city's fate in an instant. In the turquoise waters off the coast of Jamaica, the remains of Port Royal tell a story of a different kind of judgment, one delivered not by mythic gods but by the shuddering earth itself. In the late 1600s, this was not just a town, it was a legend. Known as the wickedest city on earth, Port Royal was the thriving, lawless capital of the Caribbean pirate world, a place where fortunes were made and lost in the smoky taverns along its bustling wharves. Then, on the morning of June 7, 1692, the ground convulsed. A massive earthquake struck, and within minutes, the sandy foundation upon which the city was built liquefied. Entire streets crowded with warehouses, shops, and homes simply slid into the sea, swallowed by the harbor's waters. Nearly 2/3 of the city vanished beneath the waves, and with it, thousands of lives were lost in the chaos. This was not a slow environmental change, but a single, cataclysmic event that erased a chapter of history in the time it takes to draw a breath. What makes Port Royal an archaeological treasure is the very violence of its end. The rapid sinking and the thick, oxygen-poor sediment that quickly buried the ruins created a remarkable state of preservation. In this underwater environment, devoid of the microbes that normally decay organic material, time stopped. Archaeologists diving on the site have found a city frozen in its final moment. They have mapped the cobblestone lanes that once echoed with pirate footsteps, the stone foundations of grand merchant houses, and even the more humble wooden structures of the everyday citizens. The artifacts recovered are not ceremonial objects, but the intimate debris of daily life in a 17th century port: pewter plates, clay pipes, wine bottles, and navigational instruments, all left exactly where they fell or were stored. One poignant discovery was a pocket watch, its hands forever stopped at the precise time the earthquake struck, a silent witness to the disaster. While the historical records of Port Royal's raucous life are extensive, the sunken city provides something documents cannot: a tangible, three-dimensional snapshot. It allows us to touch the reality behind the legends of piracy and colonial ambition. The sight forces us to confront the fragility of human enterprise against the raw power of the planet. Port Royal's story is a stark reminder that the ground beneath our feet is not always solid, and that the sea which brings wealth and connection can, in a moment of geologic anger, become a sudden and final grave. Its ruins are a uniquely preserved lesson in humility, a time capsule from a day when the world, quite literally, turned upside down. The sudden cataclysm of Port Royal reveals a world erased in minutes, but some underwater mysteries form in silence over millennia, leaving only cryptic patterns as their signature. Across the vast, dark plain of the Gulf of Mexico's floor, sonar has painted a gallery of the inexplicable. Scattered at profound depths, often along the contours of ancient, drowned shorelines, are strange, perfect circles and intricate geometric designs. These are not random shapes, but symmetrical formations that look deliberate, like massive crop circles etched into the seabed. Some appear as single, distinct rings, while others form complex clusters or interconnected lines sprawling across acres of the ocean bottom. Their discovery presents a riddle with two very different sets of answers, each pointing to a radically different history of this submerged landscape. The leading scientific explanation points to a natural yet dynamic geological process. The Gulf floor is known for its methane seeps, where gas slowly escapes from deep reservoirs below the sediment. As this gas bubbles upward over centuries, it can disturb the seabed in consistent circular patterns. The movement of subsurface fluids and the settling of sediments might, under specific conditions, create these near-perfect rings and lines purely through physics and chemistry, a kind of slow-motion art drawn by the Earth itself. Yet, the location of many of these patterns gives pause. They are frequently found along what were once coastlines and river deltas when sea levels were hundreds of feet lower, places that would have been ideal for human settlement. This has led some researchers to propose an alternative and far more provocative theory. Could these be the last traces of human engineering, now drowned and buried? One compelling idea is that they are the remnants of ancient fishing weirs, large circular or labyrinthine structures built from stone or wood to trap fish in tidal areas. Such constructions were common among coastal peoples worldwide, and their sunken foundations could indeed appear as geometric outlines on sonar. An even more profound possibility is that they mark ceremonial sites, ritual circles or earthworks constructed by early inhabitants of the continental shelf when it was a lush, exposed plain. The sheer scale and depth of these formations, however, make definitive answers elusive. Studying them requires specialized submersibles and significant funding, as they lie far beyond the reach of conventional diving. A sonar image can show a shape, but it cannot reveal whether a circle is made of piled stone, hardened sediment, or simply a depression in the mud. Without physical samples and direct examination, the formations remain in the realm of compelling speculation. These mysterious circles challenge us to expand our imagination of the past. They ask us to consider a time when the now drowned shelves of the Gulf were alive with human activity, where people not only lived but shaped their environment in large, deliberate ways. If these are natural, they are a stunning example of how the planet can mimic art. If they are artificial, they are ghostly blueprints of a lost world, the last faint sketches of a landscape we can no longer walk, waiting in the dark for us to learn how to read them. The geometric circles of the Gulf lie in profound darkness, but some ruins offer their secrets in the brilliant clarity of shallow water. Off the northern coast of Crete, in the sheltered embrace of Elaunda Bay, the sea holds a city you can swim through. This is ancient Aulis, a once powerful Dorian port that now lies just beneath the surface, its stone bones visible from a boat or even to a snorkeler gliding above. Here, the barrier between our world and the ancient one is measured in mere feet of transparent turquoise water. You can follow the distinct lines of crumbled walls that once defined city blocks, trace the outlines of building foundations, and even spot sections of intricate mosaic floors, their colored tesserae still arranged in patterns laid down centuries ago. This immediate, tangible connection makes Aulis feel uniquely alive. Unlike sites lost in abyssal depths, this sunken city exists in a state of graceful suspension, a ghost town illuminated by Mediterranean sunlight. Aulis was no minor settlement. For centuries, it served as a vital commercial and political hub, its influence stretching back to the Minoan era and continuing through Roman times. Historical records and inscriptions found on land detail treaties, laws, and the daily life of a thriving maritime community. We know its name, we have records of its governance, and we understand its role in the ancient world. The mystery of Aulis, therefore, is not one of identity but of process. How exactly did this bustling port slip beneath the waves? The answer lies in the very ground it was built upon. Crete sits at the tumultuous convergence of tectonic plates, a region where the Earth is in constant, slow motion. Geological research suggests that Aulis did not vanish in a single catastrophic event, but succumbed to a gradual, relentless subsidence. A series of seismic shocks over generations likely caused the land to sink incrementally, allowing the sea to encroach, season by season, century by century. The city's residents would have witnessed their world changing, repairing cracks in walls after each tremor, perhaps abandoning lower districts as seawater seeped into wells and foundations. This slow-motion drowning creates a poignant archaeological record. The ruins are not scattered by a violent wave but settled, as if the city simply grew tired and laid down to rest. This allows archaeologists to study the layout with remarkable clarity, seeing how the city adapted or failed to adapt to its sinking reality. The visible mosaics and wall lines are not just pretty sights for tourists, they are direct data points in a long-term geological investigation. Each aligned stone helps scientists piece together the timeline of subsidence, correlating the ruins with known earthquake events in the region's violent history. Aulis stands as a beautiful, sobering lesson in Mediterranean life. It demonstrates with perfect clarity how human history in this region is deeply entwined with the Earth's volatility. Civilizations here build upon a landscape that is inherently unstable, trading the risks of earthquakes and tsunamis for the immense benefits of fertile land and strategic sea routes. The city's silent, sunken streets are a testament to that enduring bargain. They remind us that the ground of history is not always solid, and that sometimes the past does not lie buried, but rests just below the surface, waiting for us to look down through the clear, blue water and remember. Even in the heart of North America, far from the ancient Mediterranean, lakes can hold secrets that refuse to stay buried. In the quiet, tea-colored waters of Rock Lake, Wisconsin, local stories have whispered for over a century of something monumental hidden below. Fishermen and early aviators reported seeing dark, angular shapes beneath the surface on calm days, forms that suggested roofs, walls, and the distinct slopes of pyramids. These persistent accounts eventually drew scientific interest, leading to sonar surveys of the murky lake bed. The scans revealed anomalies, large, geometric formations with surprisingly straight edges and triangular silhouettes resting in the deep. To some, these shapes are unmistakable evidence of constructed platforms or even submerged pyramids, potentially built by a forgotten pre-Columbian civilization with engineering knowledge that history has overlooked. The theory suggests that during a drier period, when the lake's water level was much lower, a culture could have built these structures on the shore, only to have them swallowed as the climate shifted and the waters returned. Others, however, point to the lake's glacial origins. Rock Lake sits in a landscape sculpted by ice, and geologists note that the retreating glaciers could have deposited large, erratic boulders or left behind moraines, ridges of rock and sediment that, when viewed with sonar, might create sharp, artificial-looking angles. The poor visibility in the lake, often just a few feet, makes definitive visual confirmation a monumental challenge, leaving every sonar image open to interpretation. This ambiguity has allowed the mystery to thrive in a space between folklore and fragmentary evidence. It is a classic regional enigma, one that invites both deep skepticism and genuine curiosity. Whether these formations are natural glacial leftovers, significant Native American constructions like fishing weirs or ceremonial platforms now submerged, or simply the product of suggestive sonar echoes, their power lies in the questions they keep alive. They remind us that mystery is not only found in the deep ocean, but can linger in the familiar, dark water of a local lake, prompting us to wonder what might lie beneath the surface of our own backyards, waiting for the right technology or the right moment of clarity to finally tell its story. The quiet lakes of Wisconsin hold their local secrets, but across the world, another set of jars tells a story on a much grander scale. On the floor of the Gulf of Thailand, archaeologists have made a discovery that echoes a famous land-based mystery. Scattered across the seabed are large, carved stone jars, eerily similar to those found on the plain of jars in Laos. These are not small containers, but substantial vessels, some standing several feet tall, hewn from solid rock with a clear, purposeful craftsmanship. Their presence underwater is the first layer of the puzzle. These jars were almost certainly created on dry land by a community that lived and worked along a prehistoric coastline. Their current location, beneath the waves, suggests that the maker's entire world was eventually claimed by the sea, as rising water levels at the end of the last ice age slowly inundated their settlements. This simple fact expands the map of a mysterious culture in a profound way. The Plain of Jars in Laos is already one of Southeast Asia's great archaeological enigmas, with thousands of these massive stone vessels dotting the landscape, their original use still debated by scholars. The predominant theory is that they served a funerary purpose, perhaps as vessels for secondary burial practices where remains were placed inside after initial rites. Other ideas suggest they were used for storing food, water, or fermenting drink for large communal gatherings. The discovery of identical jars on the Thai seafloor now stretches this mystery across hundreds of miles and into a completely different environment. It indicates that the jar-making peoples were not isolated to the inland highlands of Laos, but were also active along the ancient coasts, part of a wider cultural network than anyone previously suspected. This forces a re-evaluation of prehistoric Southeast Asia. How connected were these communities? Did they share a common belief system that required these distinctive jars, whether for honoring those who passed or for sustaining the living? The underwater jars become silent markers of a lost coastal trade and cultural corridor, a highway of ideas and traditions that is now completely submerged. Each jar is a question pulled from the silt. Were they being transported by boat when the site was submerged, or were they sitting in a ceremonial ground on a shore that no longer exists? Their purpose remains as opaque as the murky water they rest in, but their very existence is a clear signal. They tell us that a chapter of human history in this region, written in stone and placed at the water's edge, has been patiently waiting for us to look beneath the surface and realize how much of the story is still missing. The stone jars of Thailand speak of a culture lost to the rising sea, but on the sun-drenched coast of ancient Lycia, another city tells a more gradual and perhaps more relatable story of surrender. Apollo was never swallowed in a day. Instead, you can watch its slow descent into the Mediterranean, step by submerged step. Walking along this Turkish shore today is like reading a history book where the pages are made of water and stone. You begin on dry land among the scattered foundations of houses and public buildings. Then, as you move toward the sea, the ruins begin to wade. First, a low wall disappears up to its knees in the clear, shallow water. Further out, a line of ancient sarcophagi, their heavy stone lids still in place, stand like silent sentinels in a turquoise field, submerged to their shoulders. The most striking sight waits just offshore, where the curved apse of an early Christian church rises from the seabed, its arched window framing nothing but blue water and sky, a hollowed-out shell of faith claimed by the sea. This is not a scene of violent destruction, but of patient, relentless change. Apelli's fate was sealed by the very ground it stood upon. The entire Lycian coast is a region in slow motion, gradually sinking due to tectonic subsidence. Over centuries, as the land incrementally dropped, the Mediterranean simply flowed in to fill the space, claiming the city's lower districts foot by foot, generation by generation. This creates a uniquely clear timeline of adaptation. Archaeologists can see how the city's residents responded to their changing world. They built seawalls to hold back the water, and they shifted their infrastructure inland when possible. Apelli was a practical, resilient place, famous in its prime for a valuable commodity, a rich purple dye harvested from local sea snails. This industry required a coastal location, tying the city's prosperity directly to the very sea that would eventually claim it. That is the profound tension at the heart of Apelli's story. Its reason for existence, its economic lifeblood, was also the agent of its demise. The people here made a calculated bargain with their environment, trading long-term stability for immediate opportunity, a choice countless coastal communities have made throughout history. The haunting beauty of the site today lies in its transparency. You can literally see the process of geological history at work, the interface between human ambition and planetary force rendered invisible, tangible stone. It offers a quiet, powerful lesson about the nature of ruins. Not all are created by fire or quake. Some are the result of an almost imperceptible shift, a sigh of the earth over hundreds of years, where the end comes not with a bang, but with a gentle, lapping wave that one day simply does not retreat. Apelli asks us to consider what we are building on, and whether the ground beneath our own feet is as solid as it seems. The cold, dark waters of the Norwegian fjords hold a different kind of secret, one written not in the ruins of cities but in cryptic lines on the seabed. Recent sonar surveys along these dramatic, glacier-carved coastlines have mapped something unexpected, a series of strange, geometric shapes resting on the ocean floor. From above, they appear as near-perfect circles, long straight lines, and grid-like patterns, forms that seem too orderly to be the work of chance alone. Given the powerful glacial history of this region, where miles-thick ice sheets once scraped and sculpted the bedrock, the most likely explanation is geological. The retreating ice could have deposited moraines in precise ridges, or the unique flow of ancient meltwater might have carved these patterns into the soft sediment, creating a stunning natural illusion of design. Yet the human mind is drawn to pattern, and in a land steeped in Viking history, it is impossible not to wonder, could some of these formations be the sunken footprints of human activity? One compelling theory points to the possibility of ancient fish traps. The Norse were masterful maritime engineers, and building stone or wooden weirs in shallow coastal inlets to corral fish would have been a common and vital practice. Over centuries, as land rebounded from the weight of the glaciers or sea levels shifted slightly, these structures could have slipped beneath the surface, leaving only their geometric outlines as a ghostly signature of a harvest long past. An even more speculative idea wonders if they mark the sites of very early, now drowned coastal settlements from a time when the shoreline looked entirely different. The true challenge, and the reason the mystery endures, is the environment itself. These fjords are deep, cold, and often shrouded in low visibility, making detailed archaeological verification a difficult and expensive proposition. Without direct, hands-on examination, a sonar image remains just that, an image open to interpretation. This gap between data and certainty is where imagination thrives, allowing local folklore and wider speculation to weave stories around the clean lines on the map. These Nordic formations, whether glacial artwork or forgotten tools, contribute a vital piece to the global puzzle. They remind us that the ocean's secrets are not confined to tropical seas or the ancient Mediterranean. Every body of water, from the deepest trench to the steep-sided fjord, holds chapters of planetary and human history in its depths, waiting for the light of inquiry to finally reach them. The slow, inexorable sinking of a coastal city is a geological whisper, but in Italy the ground speaks with a volcanic murmur. In the beautiful, treacherous Bay of Naples, the ancient resort of Baiae offers a different lesson in luxury and loss. This was not a city of merchants or warriors, but the ultimate pleasure destination for the Roman elite, a place of legendary indulgence where emperors and senators built magnificent seaside villas to escape the pressures of Rome. Its reputation for hedonism was so profound that the name Baiae became synonymous with decadence and moral decline in the writings of the era. Today, that world of excess is partially submerged, resting in the clear, shallow waters of the bay, creating one of the world's most accessible and poignant underwater archaeological parks. The cause was not a sudden earthquake or a rising ocean, but a phenomenon as slow and powerful as the volcanic forces that shape the region, a process called bradysism. Here, the molten magma chambers beneath the surface cause the land to inflate and deflate over centuries, like the slow breathing of the earth itself. In Baiae's case, the ground has gradually sunk, allowing the Mediterranean to claim its shoreline, inch by patient inch. What remains underwater is a breathtaking snapshot of Roman opulence frozen in time. Divers and snorkelers can glide over intricate black and white mosaic floors that once adorned sprawling dining halls. They can swim past the toppled columns of grand porticos and come face to face with silent marble statues, their forms now adorned with gentle marine growth. The most striking structures are the ruins of thermal bath complexes, with their distinctive arched ceilings and hypocaust systems, the ancient Roman method of underfloor heating, now open to the sea. This creates an experience unlike any other ruin on land. To explore Baiae is to traverse a drowned museum, a place where history is not behind a rope or under glass, but all around you in a fluid, three-dimensional space. The water itself acts as a preservative, protecting these delicate mosaics and marbles from the weathering effects of sun and rain, while simultaneously transforming them into something new and eerily beautiful. The site's power lies in this duality. We know its history from texts that detail its scandalous parties and political intrigues, but the underwater ruins provide a tangible, sensory connection to that past. They make the abstraction of Roman luxury concrete. You can see the scale of a single villa's footprint, understand the engineering of its heating systems, and grasp the sheer artistic investment in a single mosaic panel meant for a private home. This forces a profound reflection on the nature of time and legacy. The very volcanic forces that made the area attractive for its hot springs and fertile land were also the forces that destined it to sink. The elite of Rome built their palaces on a geological powder keg, trading long-term stability for immediate, unparalleled pleasure. Swimming through these silent halls, one is confronted with the quiet irony of it all. The same waters that now cool these ancient bathhouses once symbolized the pinnacle of heated luxury. The statues that now watch over schools of fish once gazed upon lavish banquets. Baiae does not pose a mystery of origin or identity. Its story is well documented. Instead, it presents a mystery of perspective. It asks us to consider how the forces of nature can become the ultimate curators, preserving a culture's most intimate spaces not in dust, but in liquid light, transforming a center of human excess into a serene, submerged garden for contemplation. From the curated decadence of Baiae, we cross an ocean to a mystery defined by its sheer, sprawling scale. Scattered reports and sonar images from across the Caribbean basin point to something that seems to defy the randomness of the deep, a mysterious wall. Not a single, isolated structure, but what appears to be an extensive, linear foundation running along the seafloor, sometimes for hundreds of feet. Discovered at various locations and significant depths, this formation presents a riddle that has become intertwined with the most famous legend of all, Atlantis. The idea of a massive, submerged wall conjures an immediate image of a fortified city or a colossal sea barrier from a forgotten age, a tangible piece of a puzzle many have sought for centuries. The visual evidence can be compelling, showing long, straight lines of large, blocky stones that seem meticulously aligned, resting on the sandy bottom under a blanket of blue. The immediate human response is to see construction, order imposed upon chaos. Yet, the Caribbean environment offers a powerful natural explanation, one we have encountered before, Bicroc. This region's coastlines are perfect for the formation of these natural sandstone slabs, created when shell, sand, and coral cement together over time. As sea levels rise or erosion occurs, these slabs can fracture along clean, geometric planes, creating what looks for all the world like a collapsed ancient wall or a paved road sliding into the abyss. This geological process is a master mimic, capable of producing the very shapes that ignite our imagination. The true mystery, however, is amplified by the sheer scope of the reports. These wall-like formations are not noted in just one place, but hinted at across different parts of the Caribbean basin. This pattern leads to a profound and speculative question: could these be the disconnected remnants of a much larger whole? If they are natural, it is a stunning coincidence of geology repeating itself in similar ways across a vast area. If they are artificial, however, the implications are monumental. It would suggest not an isolated settlement, but a network of pre-Columbian coastal communities, perhaps even an interconnected civilization that thrived on the now submerged shelves of the Caribbean when sea levels were lower. These people would have been master coastal engineers, building substantial stone foundations to protect their villages from the sea, only to have that same sea eventually claim everything. The legend of Atlantis, often placed in this very ocean, gains a shadow of plausibility not from a single perfect ruin, but from the haunting possibility of multiple, similar structures pointing to a widespread cultural phenomenon now lost beneath the waves. The greatest challenge here is not finding the walls but proving what they are. The Caribbean is enormous, and comprehensive, detailed mapping of its entire seafloor is a task of staggering proportion and expense. Many of these sites are known only from brief sonar passes or diver anecdotes, lacking the rigorous archaeological survey needed to distinguish a fractured Bicroc shelf from a deliberately laid foundation. Without systematic excavation and dating, they remain tantalizing dots on a map, waiting to be connected by a line of hard evidence. This mystery represents the ultimate test for underwater exploration, a challenge of patience and perspective. It asks us to hold two competing truths in mind at once, to acknowledge the incredible mimicry of nature while remaining open to the possibility that human hands once shaped these stones. Each report of a submerged wall is a whisper from the deep, a potential piece of a puzzle so large we have not yet even seen its edges. It is a reminder that the final frontier of archaeology is not in the deserts or jungles, but in the silent, blue vastness that covers most of our planet, where the line between a natural wonder and a lost world is often as thin as a layer of sand. These scattered ruins from the Pacific to the Mediterranean are not random accidents of history. When we step back and view all 25 sites as a single, global collection, powerful patterns come into focus. Three immense forces emerge as the primary architects of this sunken world: The first is the great planetary thaw at the end of the last ice age. As glaciers melted, global sea levels rose by hundreds of feet over millennia, a slow but relentless drowning that claimed entire landscapes like Doggerland and likely submerged the coastal fringes of cultures we have yet to name. The second is the restless Earth itself, the tectonic shifts that cause sudden, catastrophic subsidence, as in Port Royal, or the patient, sinking breath of Braddisism that took Baiae inch by inch. The third force is human ingenuity itself, the advanced engineering of cultures like the builders of Nan Madol or the stone workers of Yonaguni, whose achievements in stone continue to challenge our assumptions about their capabilities. The explanations for these sites form a spectrum. On one end, rigorous archaeology and geology provide clear answers, showing us how natural processes can create breathtakingly artificial-looking formations. On the other, the enduring human need for myth and meaning gives rise to more speculative ideas of lost continents like Atlantis or Lemuria serving as cradles for forgotten advanced societies. These theories, while often outside mainstream science, persist because they speak to a deep-seated recognition that our historical timeline feels incomplete. They are attempts to fill the gaps left by the sea. What is crucial is that every site, whether eventually explained by science or not, serves as a catalyst. Each discovery pushes the technology of underwater exploration forward, demanding better sonar, more resilient submersibles, and more precise methods for dating materials recovered from the seabed. They force archaeology to become more interdisciplinary, blending geology, oceanography, and climatology with the study of human artifacts. Together, these ruins are not isolated curiosities. They are pieces of a single planet-sized puzzle. They are connected by the shared experience of transformation, of land becoming sea. This collective evidence asks us the most profound question of all. If we have found this many sunken chapters by chance and limited exploration, how much more of the human story is lying on the ocean floor? Our history has traditionally been written from what survived on dry land, but that may represent only a fraction of the narrative. The coastlines have always been where humanity gathered, traded, built, and innovated. As those ancient shores now lie under fathoms of water, they hold the potential to rewrite our understanding of migration, technology, and cultural exchange. The ultimate mystery is not any single ruin, but the vast, silent library that the ocean has become, its shelves holding stories we are only just beginning to learn how to read. From the carved terraces of Yonaguni to the flooded streets of Pavlopetri, these 25 underwater sites form a single, powerful testament. They are not isolated oddities, but a chorus of whispers from the deep, challenging the very foundations of our historical narrative. Each one, in its own way, pushes against the boundaries of what science can fully explain and history dares to record. They force us to confront a profound truth, that our planet's past is far more fluid, more mysterious, and far less settled than the maps in our textbooks would have us believe. These are not merely lost cities of stone and mortar. They are vessels for lost knowledge, for cultures whose names we may never know, and for countless human stories that were swallowed by the sea before they could be written down. The silent columns of Heracleion held the laws of a nation. The geometric circles in the Gulf of Mexico may trace the rituals of a forgotten faith. The submerged jars of Thailand carried the customs of a people whose world vanished with the rising tide. With every sonar scan and every dive, we are not just recovering artifacts, we are attempting to read a library where the pages are made of water and sediment. As our technology advances, with robots that can withstand the crushing depths and scanners that can see through layers of silt, we will undoubtedly solve some of these enigmas. The debate over Yonaguni may one day reach a consensus. The formation in Lake Michigan might be conclusively dated. Yet, for every mystery we solve, another will likely deepen, or a new one will emerge from the abyss. This is the beautiful, endless nature of exploration. The ocean floor remains the largest museum on Earth, and its collection is still being catalogued. The true lesson of these 25 ruins is not that we have all the answers, but that we must keep asking better questions. They remind us to look at our oldest myths with fresh eyes, to study our coastlines with a sense of humility, and to listen to the local stories passed down through generations, for they often hold the first clue. So remember, the next great discovery that rewrites our understanding of humanity's journey is not necessarily hidden in a remote jungle or a barren desert. It might be lurking just beneath the familiar waves of a local lake or off a well-traveled coast, waiting for a curious mind, a new piece of technology, or a retreating tide to reveal its secret. If you found this dive into the deep fascinating, consider subscribing for more journeys to the edges of history's greatest mysteries. We would love to hear which of these underwater wonders captured your imagination the most, so share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for exploring with us.